Hello, everybody. I'm so excited. We're going to be going live with Jen Limburner. So I'm just going to add her in here, and we are going to be talking about how to achieve a lean body with or without CrossFit. So just hang tight. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Invite. Awesome. Cool. Hey, what's up, babe?
Hello, how's it
I'm doing
going?
good. Can you hear me okay? Because
I
I
can
don't
hear
have my.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Perfect. I've had some weird issues with my ear pods jumping in and out lately, so if I suddenly disappear, just flag me down and let me know.
Okay. Well, no, you sound great. Awesome, dude. So I'm actually like super excited to talk to you. Like, it's just cool,
Yeah,
man. Like, it's really cool to see everybody's journey. Um, just we've gone through a lot, and there's just so much wisdom I feel like that we've learned and that we can share with people, and that's what this is really all about. So,
yeah,
um,
for sure.
yeah, basically, I'll have you just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, a little bit about what you do, and then we'll get into kind of like just your story and stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's so awesome getting to connect with you because for those, I don't know if you're going to say this or not, we met a number of years ago at the
GL,
NPGL, yeah, so like
National Pro
those letters.
League.
Combine, and I'm in Toronto, I'm in Canada, you're in the States, and we just crossed paths and we've been connected on social media over the years, and it's been so lovely.
Yeah.
I feel like our journeys have obviously different in their own unique ways, but have had similar trajectories. So it's been really nice getting to watch you and your journey and feel like, I was like, oh, there's someone else that connects with me and kind of what I'm navigating. So it's been so awesome seeing your journey and transformation from a personal level, also as a coach. So
And we got there in our own unique ways, which is really
yeah,
kind of like just confirmation that like there is no
yeah,
way, right? Like there is no one, but we're all like gravitating towards a similar path or similar, um, yeah, just wisdom, I guess, in how to
yeah.
be healthy, really, and
Exactly.
happy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, my name is Jen Limberner. I know, don't know all of you, although hopefully we see some familiar faces jumping on. So I run a business called J2N Fitness. I actually run another business called Strong Gymnastics, which is the fun adult gymnastics kind of stuff. But J2N Fitness is really centered around sustainable health and fitness, and my goal is helping clients. I take a bit more of a kind of body weight focused approach from a movement perspective. How do I help my clients move with more freedom and ease and less nagging aches and pains that tend to come as we get older and keep trying to push our bodies? And then on the other side, it's the how do I get or help my clients eat with more freedom and less stress and just gain the confidence in their bodies that they deserve, because everyone works hard. Like most of the clients that I get to work with, and I know in your world as well, are working so hard, but then feeling like, why do I feel crappy all the time? Why is my body broken all the time? Why isn't it reflecting it? So definitely it's kind of helping my clients find that freedom on their journeys, which mirrors some of what I went through as well and what
Yeah.
you've kind of navigated. So
Yeah.
hope that,
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So, just let's go ahead and start kind of where that journey started. So, just a quick, concise story on, kind of like, because you did CrossFit,
Yeah.
right? So, like, just kind of share, like, what was your experience with CrossFit? Like, what was your, like, what you did competitively and what that was like and the impacts that it had on your health, your body, your relationship with food. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like, that experience?
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like I've been in some sort of athletic most of my life. So I grew up competitive gymnast and power tumbler, and progressed to post university, trying CrossFit and kind of, I mean, drink the Kool-Aid. It's kind of a standard quote, but it's true. I mean, I fell in love with it pretty quickly, and because of my gymnastics background, I picked it up fairly quickly. And so I think within my first 3 months, I was into like suddenly competing on a team in an RX competition, being like, I barely even know what a clean is. Um, so I kind of went in pretty hard, pretty fast, and kind of just kept the momentum of high level athletics like I'd been doing. And so my experience went from competing at regionals on a team, and then I had a couple individual years, which went well, but I kind of, I essentially my kind of slow down to CrossFit was when I had a final back injury, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so my competitive journey slowed down as I started navigating that. And so for a number of years, I was CrossFitting without as much of the competitive focus and more just, okay, I just want to be strong. I just want to feel good. And so I did that for a number of more years as I was trying to navigate through injuries. And then finally, a few years ago now, took a step back, which is a big deal, but it was kind of the right move for me and my body.
Yeah. Yeah. So you ran into a lot of injuries. I didn't really run into so many injuries, but for me, it was like, just, it was all consuming,
Yeah.
right? It was all or nothing. And like,
Yeah.
and the harder I worked, the worse I felt for sure. But one of the big thing that was, that I wanted to, I wanted to be fit. Like I wanted
Yeah.
to like, be in a bathing suit and feel good. Like I wanted, if I was going to work that hard, like because I'm not afraid of hard work, and a lot of people aren't. But actually for me, like it wasn't so much injury. It was my health went back down, and I actually got like all these diagnoses of like, I became like one of the fittest athlete in the
Yeah.
world to one of the sickest. I gained 20 pounds in 2 months and was diagnosed with hypothyroid, pre-diabetes, stress-induced menopause, like all sorts of. So yeah, that's why, that's kind of like, it's cool to see how that has been an important part of like how we coach people, like
Yeah.
you reach out, you help people who are like just tired of being hurt and feeling like shit all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, I'm helping people that really want to like, or, that want to look a certain way, that's really important. So,
and it's interesting because looking back, I mean, my change, and I want to talk about this, in nutrition has also transformed significantly. But when I look back, even though I think the pivotal point for change for me was the injuries, like the nutrition and all that's tied into it, the all or nothing mentality of pushing, like I remember training so much during the week and pushing my body, and thinking, oh, it's just the workouts that are causing my body to break down and me to be injured, when really it was, I was pushing to extremes in the gym. I was trying whatever diet was like I was trying to be so strict with my nutrition and always kind of bouncing between that all or nothing, super perfect with nutrition, and then going all out, like, and then high levels of stress because I was trying to run a business. And so you really see yes, I felt like the movement was impacting my injuries, and that was part of it, but it wasn't the whole picture. It really was all of those things. So when I started taking that step back to be like, something's got to change, like I can't keep doing this, it was initially the movement, but part of my journey was also then realizing, no, these things have to change as well. I can't keep doing this as a whole. I can't keep treating my body like this.
Yeah. And one of the, I mean, I've seen those pictures of you, like they're such great pictures when you were CrossFitting super hard. I mean, you had a completely different physique.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like what was your nutrition back there when you were CrossFitting? And what was that like? And how has that changed? And why do you think it changed? Like,
yeah. So I don't think I had a specific exact way when I was crossing. I think I was constantly jumping from thing to thing. Like I think it was very much what was trendy at the time, like what were other people doing, and that was what I was trying to do.
Which was probably
of course
back then.
Or, yeah, like
I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I think there's paleo, and then like the bulletproof like there's like all these different. I don't remember exactly the orders, but like it's all the phases, right?
Yeah.
And then the macro tracking and stuff like that. And I think I'm trying to think of the kind of trajectory of where, like, what happened and how I navigated. But I remember near the end of my CrossFit journey, I was kind of like, I'm a smaller athlete. I mean, you can relate. We're both little. And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to eat like I need to gain weight to be able to lift heavier. And so at the end of my journey, I think I'd even thrown out the window and just been like, all right, I'm just going to eat more to increase size. And then of course my body felt crap at that too, because I also wasn't fueling it properly, and then I went on strict macros and would lean out, and like it was kind of like this permanent fluctuation. Like I can look back at photos and say, yeah, I was lean at certain times, and I have to admit, like I've never had the experience of being in a large body, and so I have to say that off the hop. But I definitely had these fluctuations because I was never consistent, and I never really realized why. And then when I started making
that would probably that was large for you, I would assume.
Right.
Like, so I mean, just because you're not 200 pounds doesn't mean like we all have our own thresholds of what we think large is. So yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think what it really came down to is I was always constantly trying to find these like listen to, well, this person said this, so I have to try that, or this person says that and I have to try that. And I never really understood this concept of, which both of us I know now is like listening to your body and actually paying attention to what your body needs. And so my body comp changed when I actually stepped back from macros and certain structured nutrition and just started understanding what are my values, what's important to me, how do I make decisions that are aligned with what actually makes me feel good. And that was really surprising, I think, because all of this happened in unison with I was training less, so I was doing a lot less volume, intensity, and I wasn't following a strict plan, and my body was like, and it suddenly kind of got to this level of leanness and kind of a body comp that has just kind of remained, because, which again surprised me at first until I realized, oh, well, I'm actually giving it what it needs. I'm not in this constant state of stress. I'm not, bouncing between things, and I'm just in a, good level, balanced place.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I feel like it's hard for people to access that feeling of listening to their body when they're pushing themselves, when they're forcing themselves to go hard in their workouts, aka CrossFit. I mean, I love CrossFit. I still do CrossFit because it's fun. It's fun to me. I've done all.
I agree.
I still like it. However, it's really important that you have to know how to navigate CrossFit, because if you just force yourself to go for a time, for a rest, for a weight, whatever the program is that day, you aren't listening to your body. So if you're forcing yourself to go harder than what you need, that's going to take energy from you, and you're going to end up eating that energy back. So it's like, you really can't listen to your body if you're always under a constant state of stress, whether that be stress or anxious or overwhelmed, like, rushing from one thing to the next, or obsessing over macros. Like, there's no room. You can't listen if there's like a plan, essentially. So,
I think
that's a scary. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think for a lot of women in CrossFit, a lot of athletes in CrossFit, it's the fear of taking that step back, right? Because I think that was it. Like, we all had, I think for most people, it's like having that pivotal point where it's like, I have to change, like I can't. But if you haven't got to maybe having something happen where you feel like it has to change, it's really scary to be willing to explore it. I think like it's like, it took me a while. It took multiple like injuries and multiple instances of things where I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, let's do something.
That's true. You kind of need something to push you off the edge to be like, I've got to do something else. But at the same time, I mean, it could also just be like grinding every single day for year after year and looking the same way, and you're just so exhausted, and just like, maybe you see Jen over here working half as hard as you, and she's getting like double, triple the results and looking and feeling great. Like, it's like, that could be the thing that gets people to make that switch. But like you said, it's super scary. It's so scary, especially when you surround yourself in an environment that's continuing to promote that. And so a CrossFit gym, or you're listening to podcasts that are telling you, hey, you got to eat these macros, or you should eat like this, or you should fast 14 hours a day. I'm not saying any of that's bad. It's just that when you look to somebody else, you can't look to yourself. So
for sure. I've noticed, just in following you for a little while, maybe similar things in that I think for a while I had to remove myself from the CrossFit gym setting. Because I was very much driven by, I'm a highly competitive person. I think you might be as well,
Yeah.
but so I struggled with ego taking over and this kind of idea of like anytime I went into the CrossFit space, I was like, I have to go hard. Like there, like as if the clock was on or something I was recording, it was like max effort all the time. And so for me, it was actually healthier to, and I worked through that. I worked on like self-regulating, but there was still
Yeah.
a point where I was like, I think I need to step back for a little while and
Yeah.
like get to know myself a little bit more and do like a lot of workouts without the clock and without time and that kind of stuff just
Yeah.
to hone in on what feels good for me. And I've slowly started easing it back. Like I still do some
Yeah.
CrossFit, but it's a little bit, it was necessary for me to kind of make that mental adjustment.
Yeah. 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 Same here. I had to do the same thing. And it helps you really, when you don't have like, when you're not training to get somewhere, whether that be to lose weight or achieve a
Yeah.
time or a score or
Yeah.
something, you start to really ask yourself, well, wait a minute, why am I doing this?
Right.
Like, and you start to realize, oh, like I'm doing this because it feels good, because I want to feel good. And when that becomes the main driver, then you start to really, look after your body in a
Yeah.
completely different way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that not creating that stress that's going to keep you from the body you want.
Yeah, for sure. I always felt like train for life. I always had to like think I was training for something like a race, a time, or like competition. And I'm like, you know what? Training for life is still pretty badass. Like, that's a big deal to support yourself in your body for longevity or sustainability, whatever it is that's important to you. I think
Yeah.
sometimes that's, again, when you're used to pushing and kind of having competitions or races or things to drive you, that shift can be harder, but it's I mean, I've found it somewhat freeing to be like, I'm training to just support myself for life. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you said, it's very freeing, like not every day do we want to, do a certain amount of like, not every day do I want to go to the gym,
Yeah.
Some days I don't even want to walk. Yesterday was one of those days. I didn't do anything. I
Yeah.
had no steps, and that's
Yep.
like, but the thing is, if what happens is, if you're so afraid of like so caught up and oh my God, I'm not getting my steps in, I'm not going to the gym, like that fear and anxiety is the thing that's going to drive you to eat,
Yeah.
and as opposed to if you really know how to like, hey, it's okay, you learn how to like eat, like allow yourself to rest, allow yourself the pleasure of just sitting or,
Yeah.
doing whatever it is that you're, not being active. It's okay. You can surprise yourself of how long you can go without food.
Yeah.
Like it's, allow yourself to really enjoy. That's one of the biggest things I've learned.
Yeah. And I coined this from precision nutrition, but this idea of deep health. And it's like looking at health from a more holistic point of view and realizing physical health is one component of health. There's also your mental health and your emotional health and environmental health, and like there's all these other things that are part of the equation. And so often we get caught up in like just the physical and neglect all those other pieces. I think that was one of the biggest transformations I experienced when I work with clients. I think one of the bigger eye openers, I see you work on a lot with your clients, is like the mental and emotional side of things, like the other aspects of health that are driving their
Yeah.
decisions. And that's significant
Oh,
because even we always say with emotional eating, for instance, it's not the food, it's emotions. We need to work on the other components that are driving some of those decisions.
yes. Yep, exactly. We do a ton of, we call it inner training.
Yep.
So it's like physical training, but we're like training the inner side of the body, which
Yeah.
is mental training, emotional training, learning how to manage your emotions, not control them. We can't control our emotions, but we can go like, oh, like, this is how I'm feeling. Okay. What do I need? And, how can I handle this without going, not going to food, not resorting to food. Yeah. How to manage, how to deal with emotions. So you don't always find yourself in the pantry every single time you're stressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest thing is managing your energy. Like, like you've noticed, like the more that you rush and go, or you force yourself or push hard in the workout, that energy you got to take that energy back in some way. It's going to be food. So it's like, for me personally, it's like it's not that I have to be soft or gentle, but it's like the less I'm forcing, the less I'm pushing, the less I'm trying so hard, the easier it is to look the way I want.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So what would you say, what are the beliefs, how have your beliefs changed over the years from CrossFit to now, as far as it pertains to, we'll say, like creating a lean body? Like, what was
Yeah.
your belief back then of what you needed to do to be lean, and what is your belief now to what you need to do?
Yeah. So, I mean, back then it definitely was, in order to be fit and lean, it meant going hard all the time. It was, I have to train 6 to 7 times a week hard. I had to be following whatever strict diet and, restricting food essentially, because I mean that was the only way. And I mean, I don't even think I considered really other aspects. I think I've always prioritized sleep, like something like that's always been important to me, but it was definitely the all or nothing. I have to push to extremes, and if I miss a workout, or if I'm not perfect for nutrition, like, I'm never gonna maintain or get this physique. And so that was definitely the mentality, and I think some of that came from being an athlete and knowing that, like, and again, I think that's been part of, like, maturing in my mindset a little bit, in that when you're a high level athlete, there are sacrifices required. I mean, if you compete in sports at a high level, it is a different perspective.
Yeah.
But when you start shifting, or when I started shifting to, I'm not training to be a high level athlete anymore. I'm training for life. I'm training for sustainability and for the things I want to do in the future. I realized that all or nothing pushing to extremes was not supporting me. And so my habits have shifted to this place of, like, I talk a lot about mindfulness, is like, what am I doing daily to listen to my body and honor it? How am I making decisions that align with my values and what's important to me? And in the process of making more aligned, mindful driven decisions, I've seen in the process the changes physically. So I think it's kind of this idea of, again, going back to that deep health approach, is realizing that physique isn't just tied to, that one thing, and taking care of myself more holistically, I guess you can say, from a health perspective, is actually what's allowed me to maintain a physique. And for when I work with clients, it's the same kind of thing. They're overly stressed, they're not taking care of their health from a deep health perspective. They know how to push hard in the gym, but it's that always pushing to extremes that's actually holding them back. And when we take that step towards a more holistic approach to supporting their bodies, and focus on mindfulness and value driven decisions, the changes tend to come. Did that answer that correctly? Yeah. Hopefully.
That would, I would totally agree with that. And I think a simple way to, like, the way that we talk about it is, we don't put our focus on necessarily looking a certain way.
Yeah.
It's more, how do I want to feel?
Yeah. 100%.
When you put your focus on how do I want to feel, I want to feel good. I don't want to have bloated. I don't want to be bloated.
Yep.
I don't want to feel heavy. I want to feel beat up. It's like, so everything is every decision you make is based on, like, how do I want to feel?
Yep.
And sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? Like the other day, we went down to Denver. We celebrated my husband's birthday.
Yep.
And we had a couple drinks, and, like, I'm very aware that this is, like, not, I rarely drink. It's poison put in my, but it's like, you know what? It's actually important for me to, like, loosen up, relax, like that it can be more beneficial to my overall well-being, as opposed to just to being always so, like, oh, I can't drink ever,
Yeah.
It's never, it's not black and white.
No.
It's a lot.
I think that shifting to this kind of being able to live on a continuum, and, like, know that there's gray areas, it's not all the extremes, makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I actually shared this example that just reminded me the other day, some neighbors had dropped off these gourmet donuts, and I love sweet, like, I'm a sweets girl. And so I was sharing with my kind of group that I decided that morning to enjoy this gourmet donut with my breakfast, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
And that was a moment where I said yes to something, and saying yes didn't mean I was, not trying to support my health. That supported my health in a different way. I wanted to just have the enjoyment of it, and that was okay. And I was able to eat it, enjoy it, and move on. Where another example was, I was in the habit for a long time, not so much anymore, but having drinks on the weekend. It was like, I'd get to the weekend and be like, well, it's the weekend, I want to relax. Maybe I'll have a cider or two, because they were just part of, like, this habit of de-stressing. And in recent months, I've been able to get to the weekends and say, you know what, do I need that? Like, and give myself these moments to pause and reflect. And more often than not lately, I've been saying, no, I don't, that's okay. I'm okay for the night. And in neither instance is it a rule of saying you can't have that. Like, it's not putting restrictions. It's being able to say in this moment, what feels best for me? How does this actually align with what is going to make me feel good? And we get to decide where on the kind of priority level or value level it makes sense in that moment. And I think that's such a game changer.
Yeah.
I'm sure you experience it from this idea of like sustainability and actually being able to not feel stressed around food all the time, is to be able to understand your values enough to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like that donut, it's like that could be a healthy decision, right? Like that would be more beneficial than saying no and just and not having it forever, or like, a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden you get a chance and you kind of go wild on it. So yeah, I really agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I see that lots with sorry, we're
no, yeah,
getting thin. I see that a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, with the restriction and rule side of like nutrition, where it's like so often we're told no, 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 and then it's like we want to do the opposite. So let's remove some of those barriers and get yourself trusting yourself again, so that it's not.
And it's that takes some time. It's not like it takes time to really understand. Is this going to serve me? Is this something that I really need? That is it going to support me, or is this something that like I'm having this donut because I don't want to look at my to-do list today. It's like, what is really going on? You got to really understand yourself. So it sounds simple. There's a lot more to it, as we know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Final question. If you could boil it down, like, what do you think is the biggest mistake you see women, like older women, like, age over 35 women, what do you see? What's the biggest mistake you think that they're making as it pertains to building, a fit, lean body?
Yeah. I mean, it often comes down to not listening to their body. So being so caught up in other rules, structure, routine, that they at no point have learned to honor their body and listen to their body and trust their body. And part of that then creates this stress. And most clients I see, whether it's injuries or physique related, it's some level of stress that's part of the issue in the grand scheme of things. But at the end of the day, I usually will say, listen to your body. Like that is, and like you said, easier said than done, but that's really what it comes down to.
Takes work, man. It takes work, but hopefully, I mean, you get to a point where you're just like, this is obviously not working. I've done it a million times. I've got to try something else. So I would agree with that. If I was going to say the same thing, yes. Like not being able, or not, nobody knows, nobody's connected and, connected to their body. They don't know how to feel, but that's because we've just been trained to not be connected, to follow plans, listen to other people. So it's definitely a journey. Awesome. So where can people find you? What do you got going on if they want to learn more about you and your programs?
Yeah, definitely. So feel free to connect here on Instagram. I try and post stuff when I can. j2n.fit is my website. It has details on some of my programs. You can DM me anytime. I have a Facebook group. It's also in my bio, where I try and post some free classes. I do a lot of kind of on top of some of the nutrition and lifestyle things like animal flow and some of the body weight movement. So you guys can connect with me there anytime, and we can chat if you guys ever need support or just have questions.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jen. I love hearing your story. Look forward to continuing to watch you and learn from you. And thanks so much for joining.
You too. This is awesome. Thanks so much. Hopefully we'll chat again soon.
For sure. See ya.
All right. Bye.